Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. Chase Sr. here with you. It is a beautiful Wednesday, September 10th, hanging out here with all of the real ones. Producer Chip here to my left. My name is Chase Sr., and of course, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's Philadelphia Eagles Now a part of your day. Here's everything that's coming up here on the show. The Eagles have made a handful of roster moves going into week 2. And those roster moves taking place yesterday and today. So we'll dive into the latest on that front. We have a new Jalen Carter update from ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter. Does Howie Roseman have his eyes set on one of the top corners in the game as a trade target? We'll get into that as well. How the Kansas City Chiefs going into this Week 2 Super Bowl 59 rematch gave the Eagles a gift. And I can't wait to chop it up with everybody. Get those questions in for a mailbag by using the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat. And here's what I mean by that. So we get so many comments that come through in the comment section all throughout the live show. And so producer Chip, we can make his job easier. If within your comment, you just use hashtag Eagles at the end of your question, or if you send in a super chat, you're guaranteed to get on the show. And if you do send in a super chat, obviously we greatly appreciate that. Nearly 300 people watching live already. You love to see it. You're bringing the energy. We're bringing the energy, the insight, and the analysis. If you're ready to talk some Eagles, I want everybody to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. The more likes that we get, the more people who pile in. We should be able to get the stream to at least 100 likes in the next 30 seconds. We have a few segments to get to here. I don't want to waste any further time. Shout out to the recent commenter club, Kinnick, Snore, Otis, Herman. I saw Elijah Stovall in the building, J-Dub, Fastlane Jones. You're all here. We're ready to rock. So let's talk some Eagles right now, right here on the show. Yo, here we go. Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. Chase Sr. here with you. And as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, we appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. There are so many great content options out there. And so when you decide to hang out here with us and choose us, we greatly appreciate that. Coming up here on the program, the Philadelphia Eagles making multiple roster moves going into this Week 2 game against Kansas City. And then also on the Jalen Carter front, the NFL on Tuesday making their final decision that he is not going to get suspended for this Week 2 tilt against Kansas City. But Adam Schefter shares some new insight as far as what is going on with Carter behind the scenes in Philadelphia. Before we dive into all of that, let's keep the channel hot. We're bringing you excellent analysis and coverage every single day, year-round, right here on the program, and we're 13 subscribers away from 127,000. Join this momentous train, lock us in, hit that sub button, and what you get, daily Eagles coverage, and you become a more informed Eagles fan. Let's begin here. We have some injury news to touch on here. A lot of people wondering, Chase, why did the Eagles trade for running back Tank Bigsby, a former third-round pick? He's a solid player. He ran for nearly 800 yards and 7 touchdowns last year with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, that picture has become clearer because we have a Will Shipley injury update from Eagles insider Derek Gunn, who for a long time was a great reporter for NBC Sports Philadelphia and is obviously still plugged into this Eagles organization. Sources tell me Shipley does have a fractured rib, and the move for Tank Bigsby is not only to add depth at the running back position, but Bigsby can also help out on special teams, including returning kicks. Talked about that in the breaking news reaction video that I did when Shipley got injured. I think it was on that screen pass from Jalen Hurts when he swung it out to Shipley. He showed some good vision, some good patience to let his blockers get set up in front of him, and then he took that football down toward the goal line. This is an unfortunate blow for the Eagles because I do think that Shipley could have a legitimate role as a RB2 and backup running back to Saquon Barkley, and frankly, I really like the player. In the preseason, and obviously in a limited amount of snaps last year during the regular season and in the playoffs, he showed me some juice. Dr. Jesse Morse, an injury expert, in the field of fantasy football relayed this news on the injury for Will Shipley and the complexities behind a rib injury, because the severity can certainly differ. At the minimum, guys usually miss 2 weeks, but if an organ is damaged, that can take up to 6 to 8 weeks depending on specifics. Sometimes returning with a flak jacket is an option. That's a big time frame, and these are really painful injuries, so returning too quickly is not an option, and sometimes even flying is not allowed if a lung gets punctured. In my opinion, Tank Bigsby is Saquon Barkley's backup handcuff now, at least until we hear specifics regarding Shipley's rib injury. And because, ladies and gentlemen, he plays the running back spot, that rib injury even more painful, and the Eagles have to exercise even more caution. And so this is why the Eagles traded for Tank Bigsby. They gave up a 5th and a 6th in the 2026 NFL draft for him. That is not nothing. It's a sizable package for a player who is a violent, downhill, physical runner who adds a lot of physicality and juice to this Eagles backfield. He's a former 3rd-round pick out of Auburn, of note a previous regime with the Jacksonville Jaguars under Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson. Now that Liam Cohen is the new head coach and they have a new GM, the Jags aren't really tied to Bigsby. He started to fall out of the rotation because of how ETN looked. They also really liked the rookie in Bashal Tutin. They also elevated Cody Schrader, the former Mizzou player who played like D3 college football prior to going to Mizzou, from the practice squad to the active roster. And so Bigsby became expendable and available for Howie Roseman. A big thing here, Will Shipley had turned into a pretty solid kick returner for the Eagles. He was back there in week 1 alongside John Mechie when healthy, and so Bigsby can play there. Special teams coordinator Michael Clay had talked about that, and Shipley could be out for a little while, so Bigsby can help to replace him. What happens to A.J. Dillon once Shipley is back? We'll monitor that. I'm not sure. Obviously, Saquon is RB1. When Shipley comes back, he'll be RB2. Will the Eagles have 3 running backs on the 53 or 4? Because they're not going to cut Tank Bigsby. If they were to cut a running back, I would imagine it would be A.J. Dillon. But obviously, the Eagles will cross that bridge when they get to it, and they can pull off some roster gymnastics. Speaking of this Eagles roster, a few roster moves to touch on here. Yesterday, last night, the Eagles waived defensive lineman Gabe Hall from the active roster. They released running back Montrell Johnson from the practice squad, and then they signed center guard Jake Majors to the practice squad. He played his college football at Texas. I have a scouting report coming up on him in just a moment. I was surprised by this. I thought when the Eagles traded away Thomas Booker, that was a telltale sign that they really like Gabe Hall and Byron Young. And I still think that is true. And Gabe Hall did make this initial 53, but it came down to a roster crunch, and Gabe Hall was on the outside looking in. Because he's a younger player, not a vested veteran yet, he does have to pass through waivers to come back to the practice squad. And so we'll see if that happens. We'll get that news here at some point today or tomorrow, I would imagine. What's also of note here is how the Eagles have 6 edge rushers on their 53-man roster. And I don't really like the roster gymnastics that they've made in this case. They have decided to hold on to an older pass rusher and a veteran in Obu Okoronkwo, who was a healthy scratch in week 1 over a young developmental player in Gabe Hall, who I happen to like. As for Jake Majors, I think this is a pretty interesting addition to this Eagles practice squad. He was a UDFA. I thought he was going to be a late-round guy coming out of Texas. He spent his preseason and training camp with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They let him go with an injury settlement. But this is an exciting developmental piece potentially for offensive line coach Jeff Stoutland. He had 57 starts at Texas and in his college career and played in some high-level games. That set a school record. He is short-armed and an average athlete, but he makes up for that in a couple of areas, right? He's technically very sound. He is very smart and understands protections well. I think the Eagles really like that about him. And also, we know that the Eagles like to get out in space on some of those pull blocks. Jake Majors has the athleticism to pull. More roster moves for the Eagles here. They have signed defensive tackle Jacob Sykes to the practice squad and released cornerback Eli Ricks from the practice squad. Jacob Sykes was with this team throughout the preseason. In week 1 against Cincinnati, he made a really impressive play where he was screaming into the backfield. 6'3", 277 pounds. With this Eagles 3-4 hybrid front, he could play defensive tackle or defensive end. Smart guy. Went to Harvard. He was there from 2018 through 2021. Then at UCLA in 2022. UDFA, signed with the Seattle Seahawks. He's played in the UFL the last 2 years, and so his calendar year of 2025 has been very busy. Played in the UFL and then spent training camp and the preseason with the Eagles. As far as Eli Ricks goes, his development has kind of flatlined a little bit. I thought in 2023, when he was a UDFA coming out of college, started at LSU, went to Alabama, he could have been a diamond in the rough, and it looked as though we were heading in that direction. Remember in the preseason a couple of years ago, going into 2023, he had the pick 6 against the Baltimore Ravens, and then I know the Eagles' defense was horrible coming off that Super Bowl loss against Kansas City in 2023, and the coaching was a mess with Sean Desai and then Matt Patricia, but I thought at moments Eli Ricks had played pretty well. But the last 2 years hasn't really done much, and then this summer, he didn't make the initial 53. He was brought onto the practice squad, let go, brought onto the practice squad, let go, and I imagine the Eagles will bring him back at some point. It is Kansas City Chiefs hate week. If you hate the Chiefs, show me. Let your voices be heard and type FKC down in the comment section. This has become a very good AFC-NFC rivalry across the NFL. We'll get to Jalen Carter and an update from Adam Schefter just around the corner. But first, our sponsor for today's show, our friends at Chubbies. If you like the polo that I'm wearing on today's show, I have great news for you. You can get $10 off when you use the code CHATSPORTS at chubbyshorts.com/chatsports. Furthermore, they have so many great items. The leaves are turning, the temperatures are dropping, and the weekend air is getting that nice autumn crisp. Just because the weather is changing over doesn't mean you have to pack away the fun. Chubbies is here to make sure your fall wardrobe hits harder than a PSL on a slow Sunday with soft, stretchy, fall-ready staples built for maximum comfort and minimal effort. Mark your calendars. The Chubbies Fall Collection drops September 9th. So that was yesterday as of this recording as we're live here on the show. And it's packed with cozy gear that brings the metaphorical and real heat. Later this month, they're launching the new Comfort Collection featuring the Everywhere Jogger. Who doesn't love a good jogger? I do. It's a perfect pant for impromptu naps, weekend errands, and everything in between. Chip loves wearing joggers so he can show off his ankles. We all agree fall should be cozy, not constricting, and Chubbies delivers peak softness without sacrificing an ounce of style. So go ahead, break up with stiff pants and embrace the fun side of fall. Chubbies has everything you want, right? Polos, shorts, swimsuits, all types of different designs, colors, and looks. You want to go out on a date? Rock with Chubbies. You want to hit the golf course? Wear some Chubbies gear. You want to hang out by the pool? You can do that as well. Here's the deal. Whether you're layering up for tailgates, lounging through lazy Sundays, or just leaning fully into fall comfort, Chubbies has you covered. For a limited time, Chubbies is giving our listeners $10 off your order with the code CHATSPORTS at chubbyshorts.com/chatsports. That is code CHATSPORTS using that link at the bottom of your screen. All right, to the back half of the show. As we know, the big breaking news Tuesday for the Philadelphia Eagles, the National Football League not suspending Jalen Carter an additional game. They looked at him getting booted prior to that Cowboys game as that one-game suspension. In case you missed the news, here is the report from Tuesday from Adam Schefter that the NFL is fining Jalen Carter $57,222. Of note, that is a game check. And so that has to do with that one-game suspension. The league also says the game he was ejected for is going to serve as that one-game suspension. And then after talking to the Eagles, the NFL, and the NFL Players Association, Jalen has decided not to appeal and focus on the Chiefs game, according to his agent, Drew Rosenhaus. And I think this is the right decision by the NFL. I think an additional game suspension would have been excessive. I mean, that Chiefs defensive tackle open hand slapped Travis Kelce in the face. He didn't get ejected. He's not going to get suspended. And I think that crime is worse than spitting on somebody. Now, obviously, spitting is a little bit more disrespectful, but shoot, a fan touched DeAndre Hopkins and Lamar Jackson, and then Lamar Jackson pushed him, right? And so I know the NFL is trying to clean up sportsmanship, and what Jalen Carter did is inexcusable. It's absolutely idiotic, but he's getting docked a game check, and he got suspended. And I'm not excusing what Jalen Carter did, but context is always important, right? And this is not void of context. We saw it. Dak spitting on him, or spitting toward him first. He didn't spit on him. Important to note, of course. Dak spitting toward Jalen Carter first changed the entire situation because Dak provoked him and he started it. Now, did Jalen Carter bite the bait? Yes. Was it a smart veteran move by Dak to get Jalen Carter booted from the game, knowing that he's an emotionally immature guy? Yes. But we'll always remember here, ladies and gentlemen, that Dak spit first. Now, here's what Adam Schefter had to say about Carter on 97.5 The Fanatic this morning. I would guess we are done with the punishments of Jalen Carter. The team was fighting for Jalen Carter to not be suspended. It would be unusual for the team to go to bat on his behalf and say, okay, we're going to sit you for a quarter. The NFL determined the punishment is retroactive to last week. I would think the team would stand by that. I'm sure the team has had conversations with Jalen Carter on how that type of behavior is unacceptable. And that has to do with whether or not the Eagles are going to penalize Carter in this Week 2 game against Kansas City, whether they bench him for a quarter or a drive. We're not sure what's going to happen on that end. Nick Sirianni hasn't been willing to reveal what the Eagles' plans are. He just continues to deny, and say, hey, we're going to handle everything in-house. And when I say he's going to deny, he's denying any of the questions. He's not answering any of those from the media this week. All right, be sure to give me a follow on X and Instagram at Chase_Senior. We're reaching millions of people here every single month on YouTube. Thousands and thousands of people every single day. The channel has never been hotter. But good news for you, you can find additional coverage from me on my platforms over there on X and IG. All right, great audience here. Nearly 500 people watching live. Continue to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. We will have a mailbag coming up. How long it lasts? That's up to you. Get your questions in now. Use the hashtag Eagles. Send in a super chat so that you can be a part of the mailbag. I always love opening up the floor, chopping it up, and taking all of your questions. I did see a super chat come in from the legend, the man himself, the gentleman who is one of one. He is a man of many talents. He traveled from Las Vegas to Philadelphia. He was at the Eagles-Cowboys game, Week 1, at the link because he's a diehard Birds fan, and that's our guy Potion. $2 super chat. Chubbies, great name for a shorts company. Go Birds. My thoughts exactly. I've seen some people in the chat saying, Chubbies, I would never wear something called Chubbies. You're just making the wrong decision because everything that they have to offer, absolutely phenomenal. All right, let's move forward to segment number 2. Again, get those questions in for our mailbag. Use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat. We're closing in on nearly 500 people watching live, so I want everybody to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. John Galt, can't like you on X, Chase. I've been banned. John, what did you do to get banned on Twitter? You must have said some out-of-pocket stuff because a lot of stuff flies on X. All right, coming up next, is Howie Roseman going to trade for one of the top cornerbacks in football? Segment number 2 coming up right now. Let's dive in. Is Howie Roseman thinking about making another blockbuster move? Could Howie, who is so aggressive and has made 6 trades since the start of August, going to pull the trigger and try to bring in one of the top cornerbacks in football? We're talking about that on today's Philadelphia Eagles now because there is a lot of buzz that the Eagles could try to make a trade for Denzel Ward. Naturally, we start off with today's poll question. I want to hear from all of you. Should Howie Roseman trade for cornerback Denzel Ward, considering the Eagles have some question marks at outside corner opposite of Quinyon Mitchell? Let your voices be heard. Share your opinions with me. Type T for trade or P for pass. As for the latest on Denzel Ward, the Browns did something that was interesting on Tuesday, something that Howie Roseman has done a lot. And keep in mind that the Browns general manager is Andrew Berry, and he pulls off a lot of salary cap savvy moves. He used to work under Howie Roseman before he got that GM gig with Cleveland. The Browns restructured Denzel Ward's contract on Tuesday, and so his $13.5 million base salary has been converted into a bonus. What's interesting here and why a lot of Eagles fans are taking off with this conversation, Nick Sirianni has been very vocal about loving Denzel Ward as a player. After the Eagles played the Cleveland Browns last year at the Link, that was that emotional game coming out of the bye for Philadelphia. Going into the bye, they got dump trucked by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A lot of people at that time wanted Nick Sirianni fired. The Eagles were able to eke out a win. It was close. It came down to the wire. Then Nick Sirianni playfully was talking some shit with fans at Lincoln Financial Field, going back and forth with some Eagles fans. And so at his post-game press conference, he had one of his kids up at the podium with him. And Sirianni was talking about how his kid likes to wear jerseys, and Sirianni was telling a story about what he told his kid about wearing Eagles jerseys, and then he told his son, hey, if you want a Denzel Ward jersey, you can go ahead and do that because he's an excellent football player. So clearly Sirianni really likes Ward as a player, considering Sirianni's Midwestern ties and his ties to the state of Ohio, and Denzel Ward going to Ohio State and having Ohio ties. He knows him very well. As for the contract details for Ward, it turns $12.2 million of his $13.4 plus million into a signing bonus. And so this leaves the minimum base salary for Ward at $1.255 million. It also gives the Browns more cap space in 2025 if they want to make a move. Also keep in mind that they are dealing with the aftermath of that Deshaun Watson contract and the debacle of it. And so they're a little bit tight with cap space right now, and this is a maneuvering to open up some cap space. And did I mention that Eagles fans have taken off with this conversation? They own and are always all over Wikipedia. I went to look at Denzel Ward's Wikipedia, and what does it say? That he is a football cornerback for the Philadelphia Eagles. You got to love the internet and social media. Now, let's get to this. There's a lot of buzz that the Eagles could trade for cornerback Denzel Ward. Why would Philadelphia make a move like this? Well, cornerback 2 remains a huge question outside of Quinyon Mitchell because Adoree Jackson really struggled in week 1. Eagles aren't sure what they're going to get from Jacorian Bennett. The Eagles organization loves Denzel Ward as a player. Nick Sirianni's been open and talking about that. You have that line of communication if you want to try to make this move because Andrew Berry is the Browns GM. He worked under Howie Roseman. You can never rule out a Howie blockbuster. Shoot, he tried to trade for Micah Parsons and offered the Cowboys the biggest deal among all teams that made an offer for Parsons. Howie also really values cornerback play. He has said about his team building strategy, we want to build up the defensive line, and then outside of that, cornerback on defense. And Ward is a terrific player. 4th overall pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, a 4-time Pro Bowler, 2018, 2021, 2023, and in 2024. He can fly 4.32, 40-yard dash in the pre-draft process coming out of Ohio State. And how about this? 96 passes defended in 96 games. He consistently makes plays on the football on top of being able to run, and he has 17 career interceptions. We are talking about an old school throwback island, one-on-one shutdown corner who would make this Eagles defense a lot better. Look at these numbers that Ward's been able to put up in his NFL career. The fact that he has played for Cleveland is a big reason why a lot of people don't understand how good of a player he is. And what we're focusing in on here about the middle section of his career stats, the PD number, that is passes defended in his NFL career. He has double-digit passes defended every year that he's been in the NFL. Starting from his rookie year onward, 11, 18, 10, 15, 11. Last year, he led the NFL in passes defended, a slightly different stat than pass breakups with 19. He's also been a pretty durable player. I just really like him. He has some TFLs from time to time, but primarily he is that drop back shutdown corner who can shut down some of the top wide receivers in the game. The Eagles are in a Super Bowl window right now. They have a young team. They have cap space. On defense, they're one of the youngest and cheapest defenses in the NFL. And so they can afford to make a move like this because they have the salary cap space now and moving forward. They also have the draft capital if they need to pull off a move for a superstar. And Howie Roseman wants to exhaust every avenue in order to maximize this championship window. This now in 2025 is different than the Eagles team in 2018 after they won the Super Bowl. That team was veteran-laden. They were a lot older. A lot of their core pieces were coming toward the end of their respective careers. There were a lot of unknowns, but right now, this Eagles team is still the 30 youngest team in the NFL. And the Adoree Jackson question mark and problem, it's a question mark and a problem. We knew this going in. I wish Howie Roseman would have just signed Isaiah Rodgers because he was affordable and he would have been a really good corner opposite of Quinyon, and he wouldn't cost as much of having to make a trade for a player like Denzel Ward. But we saw in week 1, Adoree against the Cowboys, 7 targets, 5 catches given up. All of them went for first downs. He gave up 103 yards on those 5 receptions. That's 20 yards per catch. 1 target was dropped by a wide open wide receiver as CeeDee Lamb had the dropsies. He had a pass interference call on him, and it came in the red zone that set up the first Cowboys score. His Pro Football Focus overall grade, 32.4. His Pro Football Focus coverage grade, 33.6. I'd go with Ja'Cory Bennett in the meantime, but as we get closer and closer to the deadline, Eagles might have to make a move for a player like Denzel Ward if the corner struggles continue. And these are the numbers that CeeDee Lamb put up against this Eagles secondary, and he could have easily have gone off for 200 yards. He could have put up 2 bills if he didn't drop those 4 passes. 7 catches for $110, consistently got past these Eagles corners and got past this Eagles secondary. To Dak Prescott's credit, he threw some dime balls to CeeDee and he dropped them. 15.7 yards per catch, but the big number there, 4 drops. If he catches those balls, we might be talking about an 0-1 Eagles team instead of a 1-0 Eagles team. And this is all part of the bigger picture, right? Yeah, Chase, the Eagles got by week 1 against CeeDee and Dak. It was the first game of the year. Think about the quarterbacks and the wide receivers who the Eagles have to face this year. It's not going to get any easier. Now, I know the Chiefs are a little bit talent deficient at wideout. You're still going up against Patrick Mahomes. Week 3, Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, who went over 100 yards in week 1, and Devontae Adams. Week 4, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Chris Godwin isn't going to play, but Baker Mayfield the last 2 years has played like a top 10 quarterback. Led a pretty epic comeback last week in week 1 against the Falcons. You're still going up against Emeka Egbuka and Mike Evans. Week 5 against the Broncos, Bo Nix, Sean Payton, Cortland Sutton. Week 6 against the Giants, Malik Neighbors. Jackson Dart might be starting by then. I think he should start week 2, frankly. Week 7 against the Vikings. Jordan Addison's going to be back from his suspension. Justin Jefferson, J.J. McCarthy, 21 fourth quarter points and 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter as he outdueled Caleb Williams, who I think is looking like a bust. Week 8, you're going up against the Giants again. Week 9, bye. Week 10 against the Packers. Green Bay has a plethora of good wideouts and tight ends. Against the Lions, you're going up against Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams. Week 12 again against the Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens. Against the Bears, loaded receiver group, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze. Week 14 against the Chargers, you're playing Justin Herbert. Week 15 against the Raiders, this Chip Kelly offense looked damn good in week 1. Against the Commanders, their offense looked good week 1. Deebo Samuel looks like the Deebo from a couple of years ago. Can he maintain it all year and stay healthy? We'll see. But Jaden Daniels, Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin against the Buffalo Bills. Did you watch Sunday Night Football? Josh Allen is the best player in football right now. And then you face the Commanders again in Week 18. It is a schedule that features a lot of elite and very good quarterbacks and a lot of really talented wide receivers. Now, coming up next here on the show, If you watch my final Eagles-Cowboys preview going into week 1, I had said, this year, want to do some different content. And I want to welcome on other content creators, especially people here at Chat Sports. A lot of people don't realize this. We have 40 employees here. I was employee 8 in 2021. We're one of the fastest growing media companies in the world, and we dominate the YouTube landscape. Our company is thriving. It's flourishing. It's taking off. And in the media industry, how often do we see newspapers shutting down, layoffs happening, major networks having to release people? Well, we're growing. We're in an opposite direction. We're on this unbelievable trajectory. And here at Chat Sports, we have a lot of people who know ball, love ball, are very talented and very intelligent. So coming up on the other side, we're going to be joined by our Browns Report host, Joey O'Donoghue, to talk Denzel Ward. Is there weight to him potentially getting traded to Philadelphia? You don't want to miss that sit-down conversation. But our sponsor for today's Eagles Now, our friends at Chubbies. If you like the polo that I'm wearing, I have great news for all of the legends and real ones who are watching. You can get $10 off the polo that I'm wearing as part of their NFL collection if you use the code CHATSPORTS at chubbyshorts.com/chatsports. Ladies and gentlemen, it's football season. The leaves are turning. The temperatures are dropping. The weekend air is getting that nice autumn crisp. Nothing better than waking up in the morning, cup of coffee outside, watching College Game Day, getting ready for an NFL slate, and wearing some Chubbies clothing. Just because the weather is changing over doesn't mean you have to pack away the fun. Chubbies is here to make sure your fall wardrobe hits harder than a PSL on a slow Sunday morning with soft, stretchy, fall-ready staples built for maximum comfort and minimal effort. I love the material. I love the look, all the different designs. And you got to mark your calendars because the Chubbies Fall Collection dropped September 9th, and it's packed with cozy gear that brings a metaphorical and real heat. Later this month, Chubbies is launching the new Comfort Collection featuring the Everywhere Jogger. It's a perfect pant for impromptu naps, weekend errands, and everything in between. I love rocking joggers during the fall and in the winter. We all agree fall should be cozy, right? Not constricting. And Chubbies delivers peak softness without sacrificing an ounce of style. So go ahead, break up with stiff, uncomfortable pants, and embrace the fun side of fall. Original stretch shorts, classic line swim trunks if you're still hanging out by the pool, Chubbies Performance Polo. Whether you're layering up for tailgates outside of the link, lounging through lazy Sundays, watching football, or just leaning fully into fall comfort, Chubbies has you covered. For a limited time, Chubbies is giving our listeners $10 off your order using the code CHATSPORTS at chubbyshorts.com/chatsports. That is code CHATSPORTS at chubbyshorts.com/chatsports. Support the show and show yourself some respect and enhance your wardrobe with Chubbies. Now, I'm going to sit down with Browns Report host Joey O'Donoghue to talk about these Eagles trade rumors and whether or not Howie Roseman could make a move for Denzel Ward. All right, hanging out in a back studio here at Chat Sports with our Browns Report host, Joey O'Donoghue. He's new to the company, but he's crushing it, and he's going to give us some Browns insight as to what's going on with the Pro Bowl cornerback Denzel Ward. Eagles Twitter is all about it. They really want Howie Roseman to make this move. And then I've seen Browns Twitter saying there's no way that Andrew Berry, who used to work under Howie Roseman, can trade away our top corner to the Philadelphia Eagles to help them. But there was a contract restructure yesterday, Joey, that has kind of started a lot of this. And you did a video on it. It's popping off on YouTube. What exactly is going on with Denzel Ward right now for him as a trade candidate potentially to the Eagles?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show today, Chase. The thing with Ward's contract restructure is it kind of makes him even more of an enticing trade candidate, I'd say, if you look at it from Philly's perspective, because what they essentially did was they took a little over $12 million of Denzel Ward's salary for 2025. They turned that into a signing bonus. So Ward has about the minimum salary that he can have, which is only $1.2 million for the year. And so that freed up cap space for the Browns. But I think if you're looking at it from the Eagles' perspective and Howie wanting to do it again, they wouldn't have to pay Ward that much, and it would be honestly a dead cap hit for the Browns this year. The only reason I could see Cleveland doing it in future years is because they're still suffering from the Deshaun Watson contract. They owe him so much money, and they wouldn't have to pay Ward $17 million next year, $17 million the year after that. And the Eagles, they'd absolutely be willing to take it on as a team that could win now again.
Great insight right there, and you said a couple of interesting things. If the Eagles were to trade for him, it's not like they would have to absorb a big contract, but given the player that he is, how productive he's been, I do still think that the trade would require a pretty steep asking price from the Eagles to the Browns. I'm thinking a second-round pick, a third-round pick. Am I kind of right in that neighborhood there?
Yeah, I think so, and I honestly, Chase, think that someone like A.J. Brown would have to be on the table and would be even in contention because...
We're not doing that.
I know you probably wouldn't want to hear it, but Howie Roseman, probably the only guy that could actually pick up the phone and try to get this deal done. It would be steep for Cleveland, right? Because what could they get in return that could help out their future? And they're a team right now that's in a weird situation. They've drafted a lot of really good young rookies that can impact the team right away. But they also have 2-star cornerstone veteran defensive players, Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward. So I think Howie Roseman is making this call, to be honest, because, I mean, I watched the game and Adoree Jackson was kind of getting toasted against the Cowboys. Like, Denzel Ward makes them the high favorite to go back-to-back, in my opinion.
Yeah, and cornerback, too, for Philadelphia right now is a big question mark. And I think Howie Roseman knows that, right? That's why he traded for Jacorian Bennett. That's why Vic Fangio said earlier this week, going into this Week 2 game against Kansas City, as of right now, Adoree Jackson is going to be the starter, but I think he's on a very short leash. And I think what the Eagles might do, and the Browns, frankly, as well, see what Adoree does against Kansas City. If he struggles, you go with Jacorian Bennett. And then from the Browns standpoint, I think they should have won that game Week 1 against Cincinnati. And so see how they fare as a team. But if we get closer and closer to the NFL trade deadline and the Browns are in a spot where they might become sellers, then this is a move that could potentially take place. I'm just wondering, though, like Howie Roseman and Andrew Berry obviously do a great job of manipulating the cap, pulling off these salary cap gymnastics. Why would they restructure Ward's deal?
Yeah, that move, there's a couple of theories on why it would happen. One, it frees up cap space for the Browns in 2025. So if they want to go out and get a player and they think they can contend to win some games, because to your point, they should have beat the Bengals.
Yeah.
That was a close game.
Defense is really good.
Defense looked great. It was right in Cleveland's hands. Kicker woes, screwed it over, a couple turnovers as well, and drops. So I think that Cleveland, if they think they can win some games this year, they can go out and get another player with the cap space that they've just freed up. Also, and probably more likely, this cap can be rolled over into 2026 for the Browns now that it's freed up, and they have a lot of free agents coming up. Like, we're talking 27 free agents potentially for the Cleveland Browns, including a couple of bigger names like David Njoku, Joel Bitonio, which, by the way, Njoku might even be a trade candidate out of Cleveland now because of how
Harold
good
Fannon's playing well.
Right?
Yeah.
Rookie Harold Fannin Jr. looked amazing against the Bengals, and so I think there's a big move coming for Cleveland. Like, I think something that's going to be in the news pretty soon, if I'm being honest. So, especially Judkins news as well.
As a player, I was looking at Ward's numbers. He started just over 90 games. He has more than 90 passes defended so far in his career. Been to multiple Pro Bowls. He was a 4th-round pick out of Ohio State, 4.3 speed. We're talking about a pretty legitimate lockdown corner here. Just your scouting report as a diehard Browns fan, unfortunately for you since you were a kid. What makes him such a special player, and what type of guy is he at corner?
Oh, Denzel Ward is everything you want in a corner, Chase. He's a top 3 corner in the league, in my opinion. I'd put him top 2. The only one you could maybe tell me is better is Pat Surtain right now.
Okay.
And the thing about Ward is it's sticky coverage. Like, he's one of the only shutdown corners we have in the NFL. Like, the league has kind of gone away from that. You used to have Darrelle Revis, Richard Sherman, guys who were typical shutdown corners. You would let them go one-on-one and follow the best receiver.
Yeah.
The NFL's kind of gotten away from that. Ward is one of the closest things to it left in the league, even though he won't always follow the number 1. When he's there, you feel comfortable playing man and literally letting him go one-on-one with the league's best receivers. You saw him play with Jamar Chase. Chase had 2 catches. That's unheard of for him. And so just as a player, he is incredible, and I think the Eagles are the one team out of maybe 3 that could actually do this move where they're saying, you guys just won the Super Bowl. Like, if you don't win it again, you had a worse season than you did last year. So you're all in win-now mode. Why not ship it out? give the Browns some picks, and try to get a guy who can literally make you win the Super Bowl again.
Fascinating situation. Vic Fangio said this week, ideally they keep Cooper DeJean inside. He did get 8 snaps at outside corner against the Dallas Cowboys, but can you imagine a top 3 Eagles corner trio of Quinyon Mitchell, Denzel Ward, Cooper DeJean? It could be nasty. I told everybody in the lead up to Eagles Cowboys what I want to do more of this year is bring on other hosts here at Chat Sports, because we have some people who know ball, love ball, and it gives fans a different perspective from a different fan base. And so be on the lookout for that content the rest of the year. If you made it until the end of the video, give me a real one. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Joey O'Donohue bringing the heat here on Eagles Now. Good stuff right there from Joey O'Donohue, host of the Browns Report, giving you some really good Browns insight kind of from the other sideline, the other locker room, the other fan base's perspective. And so, as I noted, want to do more of that. I saw y'all down in the comment section. Man, it must be hard to be a Browns fan. Couldn't agree more. And you saw during that little segment there, I made a joke with him. Yeah, unfortunately, he's been a Browns fan since he was a kid. All right, coming up next, segment number 3, going to explain how the Chiefs have given the Eagles a gift going into this Week 2 game. And then on the back half of that, I want to take your questions. Get your questions in right now for a mailbag. Use the hashtag Eagles. Send in a super chat. I also see what Andrew Nathan said. Man said A.J. Brown. Yeah, no way the Eagles are giving up A.J. Brown for Denzel Ward. And if they were to do that, we would riot in the city of Philadelphia. Chip, are we doing all right with questions that have come in for the mailbag part? All right. Cool. All right. Cool. Got 5 questions in. Continue to get those questions in. If you send in a super chat, you're going to rise up and you're going to hop in front of people like getting a fast pass at Six Flags or something. So use the hashtag Eagles. Send in a super chat. Segment number 3 about to get underway. How the Eagles got a gift from the Chiefs, and then we'll take your questions for that mailbag. Thanks for hanging out here on Eagles Now. Chase Senior, producer Chip, all of the legends watching here on the show. And let's dive into our final segment on the live program right now. Another loaded show coming your way on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Senior, and as always, there are so many content options out there. Anytime you decide to hang out here with us, we certainly appreciate that. And no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thanks for being here. Coming up today on Philadelphia Eagles Now, how the Eagles got a gift from the Kansas City Chiefs going into this Week 2 matchup at Arrowhead Stadium, and then we're going to take your questions for a mailbag. Speaking of Eagles-Chiefs, we'll do it live. The real ones know. Join us for our Eagles-Chiefs watch party Sunday afternoon. It is going to be the Fox game of the week, so Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady on the call. But if you don't want to watch or listen to them, you can watch and listen to yours truly. Live play-by-play audience interaction, the best place to experience an Eagles game day outside of being at the actual game. Our Super Chat MVP is going to get an autographed Brandon Graham mini helmet. We'll give away a football as well. You don't want to miss it. Hit that sub button. Go Birds. And I hope to see all of you there. All right, a lot to get to here on the show. Some really important injury news for the Kansas City Chiefs. Xavier Worthy, 4.2 speedster, set the record at the NFL Combine 2 drafts ago for running the fastest 40-yard dash in the history of the Combine. We saw in the Super Bowl in garbage time as the Chiefs stat padded. He was very explosive. Got behind that Eagles secondary, and he put up one of the best performances in Super Bowl history statistically for a rookie in the history of the championship bout. But in that Week 1 game for Kansas City, as they played the Chargers in Brazil and lost, there was a crossing route. And it was a classic rub route pick play where Travis Kelce was crossing from left to right, Xavier Worthy from right to left, I believe, or maybe vice versa. Either way, Travis Kelce didn't understand the depth of his route. And he talked about how he made a mistake on the New Heights podcast alongside Jason Kelce, Eagles legend, and said, I've been in the league for 13 years. I have to be better. But as they were crossing on those crossing patterns, trying to open up Xavier Worthy underneath on a shallow cross to pick up yards after the catch, Kelce, who's huge, Worthy, who's small, collided. And Xavier Worthy lasted 3 plays into the game, separated his shoulder. He's day-to-day. Now, he's going to get some second opinions from other doctors to see if he can play with a brace, if he can play in Week 2. how long he's going to be out, if he needs to get shoulder surgery. But Andy Reid did say earlier this week, as of right now, he is day-to-day. But he is a very explosive player who is always a threat to take the lid off of the defense and to beat you vertically, but to also pick up yards after the catch with that blazing speed. And so if the Chiefs are without him or with him, it obviously changes the complexion of the game. And this is a Kansas City offense that, I've said this week, is very talent deficient. They do not have a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. And at wide receiver, they don't have a lot of depth either. And Rashee Rice suspended the first 6 games of the year after his accident and car issue had happened last year in the city of Dallas, where he shut down one of the major highways in the city for hours because of a wreck in which he then fled the scene. And so because of that legal situation, reckless driving, he is out for this game and suspended the first 6 games of the year. He's a legitimate wideout, and when he comes back, he will be the Chiefs' number 1, Xavier Worthy the number 2, and then Juju Smith-Schuster probably the number 3. And so because the Chiefs are talentless, really, on the offensive side of the ball, this is one of the thinnest teams that they've had as far as offensive talent. There is a lot on the shoulders of Patrick Mahomes. He has taken onus of needing to create and be a playmaker by himself, extending plays to throw it downfield with his feet and his legs and becoming more of a running threat. It's one of the big takeaways from that Kansas City Week 1 game against the Chargers, how often and how much he used his feet because he needed to, because a lot of his receivers were not able to get downfield. And the Chiefs, they're still a dynasty. In the AFC, a team still needs to knock them off. They have been to 5 Super Bowls and 5 AFC championship games in the last 6 years. But to the Chiefs' expectations and with where they've been, this is one of the worst Chiefs teams roster-wise in recent memory. But they have a few key pillars here. Andy Reid, maybe the best offensive head coach in the history of the NFL. Steve Spagnuolo, one of the best defensive minds and defensive coordinators in the history of the NFL. Patrick Mahomes, the current GOAT at the quarterback spot, really. And then you have Chris Jones on defense at defensive tackle, who has been a pillar for that team. I would also say Trent McDuffie is an elite player because of how great these individuals are on your screen right now are. That's why the Chiefs can still be Super Bowl contenders. That speaks to the greatness of these 4 figures right here. And obviously the Eagles are understanding of that going into this Week 2 game. Chase, you're not talking about Travis Kelce? He's not on this screen as one of their pillars? Not right now. He has been a pillar, but Travis Kelce is kind of washed. He is well past his prime. And it wouldn't surprise me if he retires after this year because he's not the same dynamic player. The Chiefs' play calling backs that up. Travis Kelce's inability to get open and pick up yards after the catch certainly serves as evidence behind that. He's just not the same guy. He might be as popular as he's ever been because he just got engaged to Taylor Swift and they've been together for a little while. And on the New Heights podcast, digitally, it's one of the most powerful podcasting platforms, but on the football field, Travis Kelce isn't the same cat. Another topic I want to get to here today. A big storyline in Super Bowl 59, right? It was how the Eagles' defensive line was able to pummel and dominate the Chiefs' offensive line. And in the process, they harassed Patrick Mahomes. And there is a formula for how to beat Patrick Mahomes. And I saw some fakes and some phonies in the comment section. Chase, of course the formula is to get a pass rush on Patrick Mahomes in order to take him down. Well, how about this? Easier said than done. The Bills haven't been able to do it in AFC championship games or in the playoffs. The Ravens haven't been able to do it in AFC championship games or in the playoffs. The Bengals did it once, but not sustainably. The San Francisco 49ers have lost to the Chiefs twice, partially because they can't do this. The formula to beat Mahomes, it's easier said than done. It has to be executed. You have to generate a pass rush on Mahomes, and oftentimes you have to do it without blitzing. The Eagles in Super Bowl 59 generated 16 quarterback pressures, 11 quarterback hits, and 6 sacks. They followed suit with what the Bucs did in Super Bowl 55. And there's a reason why Mahomes has lost the 2 Super Bowls that he's lost. Because he has been under pressure from start to finish with an unrelenting pass rush. The Bucs in Super Bowl 55, they set a record for the most quarterback pressures in Super Bowl history with 29. They also had 3 sacks and a pressure rate of 52%. And when you do that, Mahomes is a completely different player, and he's prone to turning it over. We saw that back in February when he gave it away 3 times. And back in February at the Superdome, that Chiefs offensive line, it was a big question mark. And that was a big matchup that I pinpointed going into that game, that the Eagles defensive line had the edge on the Chiefs offensive line. And the sod father wasn't watering down the sod to help out Kansas City this year because the Superdome has turf. And so this Chiefs offensive line now, still a major question mark. You have a rookie starting at left tackle, protecting the blind side for Patrick Mahomes in Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. You have a second-year player in Kingsley Suamataia, who wasn't good enough to play tackle, so now he's a left guard. You have Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith at center and right guard. They are studs. And then you have an okay, sometimes good to very good right tackle in Jawan Taylor, but I wouldn't call him elite by any means. And in week 1, Simmons, Suamataia, they struggled. Vic Fangio knows this. He's smelling blood in the water. So too is this Eagles front with their interior defensive line play and their edge rushers. Pass blocking grades in week 1 against the Chargers. Josh Simmons, 61.4. Suamataia, 56.9. They weren't much better running the ball. Simmons' run blocking grade, 59.1. Suamataia, 59.5. When Jalen Carter missed that Cowboys game, the Cowboys went right at that interior Eagles defensive line. They averaged 5.5 yards per carry. Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, they had success on the ground running at this Eagles interior defensive line. Expect the Eagles in this game to load up pressure on the Chiefs' left side of the offensive line, the Eagles' right side of the defensive line. Running the ball, expect Philadelphia to also have the edge there. So when it comes down to their game planning, I think Philadelphia feels as though they can exploit the left side of that Chiefs offensive line with the right side of their defense. And you can do this in a variety of ways, right? You can do it with Zach Bond as a blitzer. You can do it with Jahad Campbell as an edge rusher. We saw him do that a little bit against Dallas. But this is a big game coming up for Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Moro Ajomo, Nolan Smith, Jalen Hunt, Josh Uche, who was fantastic in that week 1 game. We knew coming off that Super Bowl the Chiefs had major offensive line questions. I don't know if they did all that much to really shore up what was their biggest weakness in that Super Bowl game. That's how they're giving the Eagles a gift here. Now, can Simmons become a good player eventually? Yeah. And it was a little bit of a risk for Kansas City to take him in the first round because he was coming off a really severe injury at Ohio State where he barely played last year. But right now, he's really just okay. And I think that Philadelphia can take over the game once again if they do those following things. Also, a cool stat when it comes to Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. This has become one of the better rivalries in the NFL. You had them match up against one another in Super Bowl 57. You had them go up against one another in 2023 when Jalen Hurts led a comeback win on the road at Arrowhead Stadium in primetime. And then Hurts able to get a Super Bowl revenge on Mahomes in Super Bowl 59. And they have won a lot of games, each of them, since 2022. Top winning percentage among quarterbacks since 2022, Jalen Hurts, number 1 at 79+%. He's 38-10. Patrick Mahomes right on his heels, 78% at 39-11. Josh Allen, 74.5%, 38-13. And then Lamar Jackson, just under 72% winning percentage at 33-13. Who you got in this football game? It's going to be a great one. I can't wait for it. PHI for the Philadelphia Eagles. KC for the Kansas City Chiefs. Get your game predictions in right now. What a great deal I want to tell you about thanks to our friends at Fanatics. And we have had so many great deals to relate to all of you, and we've seen by the sales that a lot of you have really enjoyed those. Get loaded up with some Eagles gear. And speaking of this Eagles-Chiefs game, how about this Eagles Super Bowl shirt? It was $38. It is now on sale for just $18. Head to chatsports.com/SB59 shirt. It'll take it to Fanatics. Fanatics will know that Chase Sr. Eagles Now sent you. That link is down below in the comment section attached to the pinned comment of today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. Don't miss out on that deal. All right, let's move forward. Let's start to take some of your questions here. One of the things I love doing as a host of Philadelphia Eagles Now is being able to chop it up with all of you. I've been a diehard Eagles fan since I was 4 years old, and we all share something in common, right? Regardless of whether or not it's in season or off season, we love talking about the Eagles. We love covering the Eagles. We love following the Birds. And we always enjoy talking strategy, talking roster moves, talking potential moves, roster battles. The city of Philadelphia is so passionate about the game of football. And what's also incredible about Eagles fans compared to other fan bases, how knowledgeable all of us are. You all know ball, just like I know ball as the host of this show. So let's take some questions here on the program going into week 2. Snorlags 333 gets us started. What are we giving up for Denzel Ward? Now, if you watch the show this week, we've been talking about these Denzel Ward trade rumors. This is a hot topic among Eagles Twitter right now. Everybody is calling for Howie Roseman to make a move for Denzel Ward because on Tuesday, the Browns restructured his contract and they reverted his base salary into a bonus pretty much. And so he's going to get that money. And we're talking about a player in Ward who is one of the top bona fide shutdown cornerbacks in the National Football League. And Chip, we kind of have a scouting report of Denzel Ward if we can pop that up with what he's been able to accomplish. I really like the player. And the Browns are a team that as we get closer to the NFL trade deadline, they could look to sell. And if they sell, they're going to have to open up cap space because of that Deshaun Watson contract. They could look to get rid of a player like Denzel Ward, who has been getting it done for a really long time. 4th overall pick in 2018. He's become a 4-time Pro Bowler out of Ohio State, 2018, 2021, 2023, 2024. He has 4.32 speed at corner, 96 passes defended in 96 games, and I think 91 starts and 17 career interceptions. Now, it is not going to come at a cheap price. I think what Philadelphia might have to give up for a player like this, a 2nd-round pick and a 3rd-round pick. I don't think it's to a point because he's a little bit older now in his late 20s where he's going to demand a 1st-round pick. The good news for the Eagles is, though, they have a bunch of draft capital if they're in contention and they feel as though they need to make a move. Now, I think what's going to happen, Adoree Jackson, who Vic Fangio said is probably going to start week 2 against Kansas City, short leash. If he doesn't work out, see if Jacorian Bennett can rise up and play well. If he doesn't, Howie Roseman approaching the deadline, he's got some leeway and flexibility here because it won't happen for another couple of months. Could make a trade for a player like Denzel Ward. Lion Fighter, otherwise known as LFX the GOAT, will Tank Bigsby get any carries, or is A.J. Dillon going to get them with the injury of Will Shipley? And so this is also a big topic among Eagles fans this week. Why did the Eagles trade for Tank Bigsby? They traded for him because Will Shipley injured his ribs in that week 1 game against the Cowboys, and the Eagles are expecting him to be out for a little while. He's RB2 behind Saquon Barkley. He's also the top kick returner for the Eagles. Tank Bigsby, he can run it. He's physical, more than 200 pounds. He packs a punch, downhill, one-cut, violent running style. Last year, he rushed for nearly 800 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's a legitimate player. Former 3rd-round pick out of Auburn, and so he can help you fill the void of losing Will Shipley. He can also help fill in for being the kick returner for the Eagles. And so those are a couple of roles for him. The Eagles did trade for him on Monday night. They have a little bit of a mini bye. But because it's so late in the game prep week for Tank Bigsby, is he going to be RB2 behind Saquon? I would imagine it's A.J. Dillon behind Saquon. But it wouldn't surprise me if with more practice reps, Bigsby then becomes the backup to Saquon, and then A.J. Dillon is still RB3. But that is a developing situation that we'll see how it transpires against Kansas City and in the coming weeks until Shipley comes back. Trey Losado, do you think the Eagles have a big advantage against the Chiefs since the Chiefs didn't look good against the Chargers, and also go Birds? You know, it's awesome. Everywhere I go, especially when I'm traveling, I always like to wear an Eagles shirt to rep the Birds. It's a great conversation starter. And whether people are from Philly or not from Philly, it generates a conversation. If you're from Philly, a lot of people will say to me, go Birds. And I just utter back, go Birds. People who aren't from Philly, they're like, you're an Eagles fan? I'm like, yeah, what are you, a Dallas Cowboys fan? You guys stink. We're the defending Super Bowl champions. But they expect us to be so mean and angry when in reality, I think a lot of Philadelphians are very authentic, nice people who will always have your back. Anywho, always going to defend my city. Do the Eagles have a big advantage against the Chiefs since the Chiefs didn't look good against the Chargers? So it was kind of a tale of two halves for Kansas City. I thought they looked really bad in the first half. And overall in that game, they did average 5.5 yards per carry. A lot of that was from Mahomes, but Isaiah Pacheco averaged about 5 yards per carry as well. But they didn't generate a lot of explosive plays. And it was a very Patrick Mahomes reliant game. 24-39, 258 yards, and then 6 carries for 57 yards and a touchdown. He just felt forced to make plays because the Chiefs, frankly, do not have a lot of talent. This is one of the lighter Chiefs teams as far as high-level talent and depth that I have seen in recent memory. But they are still so dangerous because they have Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Steve Spagnuolo, Chris Jones, and Trent McDuffie. But if you're just matching up roster versus roster, talent versus talent, depth versus depth, this Eagles team, Trey, is so much better than Kansas City. You should be able to win this game on talent alone. But obviously, it doesn't always happen like that. The Chiefs are desperate. They're at home. Tough environment. They're staring down the gun barrel of starting the year 0-2. Turnovers are going to be huge. The Chiefs are looking to get revenge on Philadelphia because they got absolutely embarrassed against the Eagles in the Super Bowl. We know that Andy Reid, with his back against the wall, is going to pull rabbits out of the hat. And he's going to pull out some of these play designs and play calls that nobody has ever seen before. Some trickery to try to catch this defense off guard. I think the Eagles win this game. I think they should win this game. I don't think it's acceptable if they do lose it. But the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and they've been the dragons that a lot of people haven't been able to slay for a reason. Andrew Nathan, Chase, so it's pretty safe to assume that Mike Hilton's workout was not as serious as we thought, seeing as the Eagles worked out other players. Could they be waiting to see Adoree Jackson in week 2? Yes. So Mike Hilton was brought in for a workout this week, and last year for the Cincinnati Bengals, he was the highest graded run defender in the NFL among corners. He is solely a slot guy because he's a little bit smaller and he's not that quick. The Eagles' backup corner situation, right now it's Mac McWilliams. If the Eagles don't like Mac McWilliams as the backup slot corner, or they like him more on the outside because they were testing him out there, they could look to make a move for Mike Hilton. But you are right. You know, at first we're thinking, oh, they're only working out Mike Hilton. They worked out a handful of players, and that included the likes of Jamin Davis, a former first-round pick by Washington out of Kentucky, the linebacker who's been a bust. It included former Eagle Quez Watkins, who only runs fast, and that's about it. And I have PTSD from missing that ball in the Super Bowl, which could have won the game for Philadelphia. But yeah, you know, it was a group of players who worked out. It wasn't just Hilton. But I think the Eagles wanted to see, okay, can he still play? He's a little bit older. Can he help us? But the Eagles are going to wait to see how Adoree Jackson looks. And if Adoree Jackson continues to struggle, Jacorian Bennett struggles as well, Eagles are going to be left with a decision to make. Do they make a move at corner? And they might have to make a move at corner. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. Always love hearing from all of you in our mailbag segments. You know ball, we love talking ball, and it's always a party here on the show. All right. Awesome stuff today. 3 segments. Great audience. 243 likes. Hovering around 500 people tuned in for a lot of the show. 428 people watching right now. Be on the lookout for even more Eagles coverage. We will be live. Eagles-Chiefs watch party on Sunday. It's going to be a blast. Super Bowl rematch. Can't wait for it. Shout out to John Galt, Sywin, Kinnick, Snorlags, and everybody else who got those comments and questions in as part of the mailbag. We'll catch you soon here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on those notifications. Therefore, anytime we push out a show, anytime we go live, you will be notified.